She stood on the curb asking for a ride, but her voice was already in my head. I don't believe in God or the devil, but I know for a fact that something dead tried to get into my cab last Tuesday. For 12 years, I've been hacking it in this city. I'm Casimir. I drive the night shift. You see the real city after 2 a.m. when the tourists are asleep and the streets belong to the ghosts and the garbage trucks. The stories other drivers tell are just that, stories. Drunk seeing double, tricks of the light on a foggy night. I always had a rational explanation. I don't anymore. That night started weird. My alarm didn't go off, but I woke up bolt upright at 1:47 a.m. with my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted out. The air in my apartment was cold. I chalked it up to a bad dream and hit the streets, chasing the fare money. The city was dead. Not quiet, but dead. A thick, wet silence had descended, swallowing the usual hum of generators and distant sirens. I had the radio on low, a late-night call-in show that usually put me to sleep. Some guy was rambling on about local myths, and they say she's still there, by the bridge. The caller's voice crackled. The weeping bride of the Williamsburg. They say she tries to flag down cars heading into Brooklyn. Looking for the groom who left her at the altar right before I snorted and changed the station. More ghost stories. Just what I needed. But I couldn't shake a weird feeling, a low-grade hum of anxiety that had nothing to do with my rent being due. I was heading for the Williamsburg Bridge myself. As I got closer, the feeling got worse. The streetlights started to act up, buzzing and flickering like dying moths. The air inside my cab grew heavy, thick, like it was turning to syrup in my lungs. It smelled of river water and rust. Then I saw it. At the base of the bridge's on-ramp, a small, pathetic memorial. A couple of waterlogged teddy bears and a bouquet of carnations, their petals browned and curling at the edges, were tied to a traffic sign. On the sidewalk below, a few votive candles sputtered in the damp air, their tiny flames dancing a desperate, jerky rhythm. I pulled up to the red light. The silence here was absolute. It pressed in on the car, a physical weight. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I felt a sudden primitive urge to lock my doors, an instinct I hadn't felt since I was a kid afraid of the monster under my bed. That's when the cab's interior light began to flicker in time with the streetlights outside. The radio died with a hiss of static. And the cold, it wasn't just the damp night air. This was a deep, penetrating cold that started at the base of my skull and spiderwebbed down my spine, a cold that felt like it was coming from inside the car. I glanced at the rearview mirror out of habit. The back seat was empty. Of course it was. But my eyes drifted to the reflection of the sidewalk. Standing beside the guttering candles was a woman. She was wearing what looked like a wedding dress, or what was left of one. It was stained grey with grime and hung off her skeletal frame in wet, shredded ribbons. Her hair was a black, tangled mess plastered to a face as white as bone. And she was smiling at me. A perfectly serene, gentle smile that didn't belong on that face, in this place. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. My blood turned to ice. My throat closed up. I stared straight ahead at the red light, praying for it to change, counting the seconds. Don't look again. Don't look again. A voice whispered, clear as a bell, not through the glass, not from the street, but right behind my ear, inside my own head. Are you going over? I need a ride. The voice was soft, melodic, and it felt like a shard of ice being pushed into my brain. I whipped my head around to look at the passenger side window. She was there. Right there. Her face was inches from the glass, her pale hands resting on the door. Her smile had not changed. Every cell in my body, every shred of instinct I possessed, screamed one single primal command. Do not open the door. It wasn't a thought. It was a certainty. Letting her in would be the last thing I ever did. I tried to speak, but my mouth was full of cotton. I managed a choked, guttural sound that was supposed to be a word. No. The smile on her face faltered for a fraction of a second. just a twitch. And in that instant I saw something else behind her eyes. Something ancient, hungry, and full of hate. Then the placid mask was back in place. She didn't move away. She dissolved. Like smoke in the wind, she just faded from the window. I blinked, and she was standing back by the memorial, as if she had never moved at all. Those 15 seconds at the red light felt like a lifetime. Then, a roar. The sound of 2 Harley engines shattered the silence, and a pair of bikers pulled up in the lane next to me. I was so flooded with relief I nearly cried. I fumbled with the window control, rolling it down with a shaking hand. "Hey!" I yelled, my voice cracking. "Hey man, you see her?" I pointed a trembling finger at the woman by the curb. "That lady right there, she needs to get across the bridge." The driver, a big guy with a braided beard, looked where I was pointing. He squinted, then looked back at me with an expression of pure confusion, mixed with a little pity. "You all right, buddy? There's nobody there." I stared at him, then back at the curb. She was there. She was still fucking there. Her smile was a little wider now. She gave me a slow, deliberate nod. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. The light was still red. I didn't care. I stomped on the gas so hard the tires screamed on the wet pavement. I shot onto the bridge, weaving like a drunk, the bikers' angry shouts fading behind me. The normal sounds of the city rushed back in, the hum of the bridge, the wind, the beat of my own terrified heart. I didn't slow down until I was halfway across. I couldn't help myself. I had to look. My eyes flickered to the rearview mirror. For a second, all I saw was the receding shoreline of Manhattan, a blur of distant lights. But then my focus sharpened. She was still there, a tiny white figure standing among her flickering candles. She was still looking right at me, right through the mirror, her smile a pale slash in the darkness. Her eyes weren't eyes anymore. They were just 2 black holes burned into the fabric of the night. And as the city finally swallowed her from my sight, she was still nodding. Slowly, patiently, as if to say, "I'll be waiting."